We've always tried to build a great fishing community, a support network. When there's any challenges, circumstances that come up every now and then, the first thing that customers do is they come to us. Like, we've got that responsibility in the community. There's some skills that we may have and our staff have. It's using those skills in a way that just provides the right advice to the customer. I've honestly believed that if you provide the right advice, you're hopefully going to have a customer for life and you're going to grow with that customer. And that's way more valuable.
You're listening to the Rising Tidecast, the podcast for sharing the stories, the lessons, and all the good stuff from legends in the marine industry. Welcome to another episode of the Rising Tidecast. I'm Steve from Rising Tide Film and excited to have Alex Qasabian on today. He's the owner of Fishing Station. Welcome, Alex.
Thanks for having me, mate.
Yeah, very excited to have you. Fishing Station's definitely a staple for the Sydney's fishing community, and I think largely Australia as well. And the great thing that I love about you and what you guys do is everyone's always singing your praises about, how helpful you are and what a great person you are and the team that you have is, it's really awesome to hear. Plus you have a hidden talent. You can shred on the guitar, which many people, well, maybe some know about. We met each other through Short Marine. I've had the pleasure of fishing with you a few times on your Grady and on the Viking Callista. You have a great story. Take us back to the beginning. Like, where did you grow up and where was fishing in your life?
I grew up in French's Forest and I could throw a stone from my old house with my family. So I've stayed local. And I guess I started off fishing with my grandfather. He was very passionate about fishing. So I learned a lot from the age of, say, 3. I fished with my grandfather. And my dad always supported as well. I don't think he likes fishing so much, but he was always there to support me to go fishing.
What did you guys used to fish for?
So my grandfather used to go out, just fish the local reefs. It was a lot of offshore fishing. So for snapper, like moong, flathead, basic fish, we used to catch some striped tuna and yellowfin around the heads.
Starting young offshore, that's awesome.
Yeah, and we did beach fishing as well. So that was the 2 main ones we used to do.
Having fishing in your life and with your family and, grandpa super into it, like my grandpa used to take me fishing like at the reservoir near us. And I love those times. I always look forward to them, even though we're catching little bluegills or something. Like, it was still really fun. What was it about fishing that you shared that passion with your grandpa about? Like, what do you think it was that connected you guys?
Well, I used to spend a lot of time, because he lived next door to us, so I used to spend a lot of time at his house and like even the preparation to go fishing. So tying knots, just hanging out and sleeping early, not getting ready to get up early in the morning and go fishing. And I was always intrigued about like a fish eating a bait and then eventually like a fish eating a live bait and lures and how they would eat it. I was always intrigued on how their behaviors and all that. So that's where it started.
Being a curious kid.
Yeah.
That's also why you're really knowledgeable, right? It probably plays heavily into the depth of knowledge that you have and share with the people that come into Fishing Station, right? You just are always looking for the little things, right? How things work and different ways to catch fish.
Absolutely. I mean, it sounds silly, but my grandmother used to knit a lot. So I used to get the thread and just tie knots and lots of knots. But that's the start of getting your dexterity in your fingers. Like from the customers that we see coming to the shop, the ones that start later on in life, it's just harder for them to tie knots. And then you add in like eyesight going, it's difficult. Like when you're young, it's a lot easier to learn these little things. So if you're passionate about something, you generally learn faster. And if you learn faster at something, you just progress.
What's your favorite knot?
I guess the uni knot is like one of the most popular knots and used so often. So that'd be one that we use all the time. But yeah, connecting braid to mono, that's like an FG knot is probably the best one out there. Especially in the work that we do, there's a lot of knots that we need to have up our sleeves depending on the situation.
Growing up with that kind of passion about learning and being involved in fishing, like how do you think that influenced who you are today?
I think there's a lot of things that make you a driven person or learn the skills that you have when you're young, whether it's from playing sport. Like my first rugby league coach was very inspirational. He got me fit and motivated. So they were definitely very crucial points in how you progress. And then being in a band. You have to be very motivated and driven to be in a band. Just otherwise nothing happens. And traveling around different countries with a band, we learned a lot of customer service from that side of things. But I always kept fishing as my hobby and vowed that I would never work in the one thing that I was really passionate about. So
that worked out well.
Yeah.
You said one thing in there, and I'd love to take a little tangent here, talking about your dexterity and how you can shred the guitar. How did the music part of things and being in the band, tell us like a little bit about that, because you're actually quite accomplished musician. Like it's not just like I'm in a band and people might think that.
I was in a band for 20 years with 5 of I call them my brothers. So we are very passionate about writing our own music. So there's the creative element of writing your own music. And then, okay, so you write songs, you write an album, but then you've got to get that to the people. So you've got to market it. You got to hustle for that. You got to call all your friends. That's where you start. And then their friends bring their friends, hopefully, and then it grows. But it's a really tough industry. But some of the things that I learned along the way was like, there was a lot of things in retail that I learned by just literally going overseas and shopping in music stores, and the service that you get from like American stores is incredible. Or it used to be. It's changed, but it used to be incredible. And I've learned a lot of those things and brought them to our store. I guess the hardest thing in the music industry is that like you download the videos for free, you download the music for free. Everything you do, there's a lot of free elements in it.
You have to have the passion.
You have to have the passion. Otherwise, like the reason why I got into music is because I felt like by writing your own music, you could impact people in a positive way. And entertainment was a great thing. And I used to love doing that. It was very passionate for me. I still am very passionate about it. But the hard part is being able to provide for a family whilst doing it. It's kind of like the Olympics. If you're not getting every gold medal available, you've worked all your life for it, but you don't actually get recognized for it. But that's cool. That's not why you do it in the first place. But it's hard to support a family.
Yeah.
So
tell me a bit more about your band, like the name and some of the accomplishments. I've seen music videos of you. They're amazing. Like the one that you showed me, covered in the oil one was nuts. Yeah. Yeah. Tell me what the name of the band is, and I guess how you guys kind of formed some of those accomplishments, and then what it looks like today.
So Stone Parade is the name of the band. It was actually a street in Davidson. And when we were discussing names and throwing them around, our drummer at the time said Stone Parade. And I didn't actually know that it was the name of a street. But there was a saying that one of the managers that we knew used to say, don't let them throw stones at you. So for me, it was like a parade of stones fighting against the music industry, because there's a whole side of the music industry which has got nothing to do with all your supporters and the music. And so you've got to convince the industry just as much as the public. It's a hard one, but that's how we got the name. I guess we started when I was about 16. I met our singer at the time, and we used to start playing local community shows and all that. And then other members of the band were at our school. So we went through a few drummers in the
the drummer, the problem child of the band, generally?
Yeah. So that took a little while, but we had 2 main drummers for most of the time. And our last drummer, who's our current guy, Billy, he's been with us for was at least 10 years plus.
Yeah, wow.
So
awesome.
Yeah, you are a family, and it's really hard to have 5 guys all doing the same thing at the same time and all passionate.
Right. Especially, as you're growing the family and interested in different things. Fishing as a hobby, I guess, with so many things that you're interested in, when did fishing turn from a hobby into what you said it would never be? What was the inspiration to say, we need to start Fishing Station?
So there was a point in time when the band was sort of like slowing down with the amount of shows. What happened was each of the band members were starting to progress in their careers, which was purely to support the band. So 2 of the boys were graphic designers, Kev and Mark. They started their graphic design business, and I had a bookkeeping business, again, purely to support the band. But everyone was getting better at their jobs, and the demands were getting there. So the boys in the graphic design side of things, they were getting busier and busier. And like our singer, he started a covers band and a booking agency for weddings and functions. And the drummer as well, he was working in construction, his father's business. And then also he was doing wedding bands and all that, gigs and all that. So all these things were dragging us slowly away. So eventually I had to do something. And this opportunity came up. It was unusually came up because basically my father had a service station and the CEO of 7-Eleven wanted to meet on site to talk about it, like a telegraph pole. So we turned up at the site and there was a car wash section that was run down, like broken, and they were not using it. And I made a joke. I said, that'd make a great fishing tackle store. And the CEO said, well, if you want to put something forward, present it to us. So I had to think about it.
Were you shocked when he said that? Like, were you like, oh, wait a minute?
Yeah, I was like, I couldn't believe that they would even consider it. But I presented it to them and I said, look, we're going to, like, fishing tackle will support, won't get in the way of 7-Eleven, but it'll support it. It'll bring a lot of boats in and a lot of fuel and food and drinks. And I promised them that I wouldn't bring any conflicting products to them. And what I did was I presented a lease to them where I would rent off them this section of the site, and I put it in line with their lease with my father. So it was like a 30-year lease.
Wow.
And so I thought my biggest positives here is that I've got a great location, a lot of people coming in and out, passing through. It's located to all the major rivers and boat ramps. So I thought, this is a great opportunity. And I also was at a relative's fishing tackle store and heard one of the reps say that there was a trade show coming up. So I told my mum and dad, and they just go, well, why don't you just get a flight and just go? So my dad and I just literally booked a flight. This was all within less than a week of this whole idea coming up.
Was this just an idea?
It was just an idea. There was no plan. It was like literally a few days in the making. And we took a flight to Gold Coast, used my dad's business name to get in to the trade show. Because you
as an exhibitor or something?
Yeah. As a bias. But I didn't know anyone there other than two people. One was a school friend of mine who's the rep for Daiwa.
Awesome.
And another guy who was a rep for another company who I didn't know, but I saw him in the store, and that's it.
That's awesome.
And those two guys both said, don't do it. The advice was from my mate Peter was don't do it. And the other guy said, we're not opening any accounts.
Oh, okay.
Straight up.
Hit the wall.
Yeah, hit the wall straight away. But there was a couple of people that said, we'll come and see the site.
Why did they want to see the site? Like, was there something that they had to say, like they had to approve, like, this is actually a business, or what was the point of that?
So the first person that came to see us was Chris Firkin from Black Magic. He was intrigued with the idea and he turned up, and he would come and visit the site for the 15 months it took. Every time he came to Australia, he would come and visit and he would just see the progress, and he was always positive towards us. Other suppliers like Shimano and Rapala wanted to keep an eye on what was going on. But ultimately, when we opened the store and built it, there were some suppliers that would supply us and some that said no.
Why do you think they said no?
There was two particular ones that said no, which was Shimano and Rapala. They said no purely because fish out of water were close by, and so they just didn't want to upset the owner at the time. So yeah, things have changed since then, but that's where it started. But I had Pure Fishing, which has like Penn and Ugly Stick and Berkeley products, and I had Daiwa. Whilst Pete was totally like, don't do this, he was totally supporting us. So it was it's good to have Daiwa behind us. And those two main accounts helped us start.
So you finally move in, you said 15 months of construction.
Yeah.
What were those early days like?
So I had no experience in the fishing industry other than working for 2 weeks at Chatswood Bay and Tackle, looking after Armin's store, who basically he wanted to go on a holiday to Fiji and said, just run the store.
Perfect. Here's the keys. Yeah.
Yeah, I had 30 minutes of briefing on how to close and open. And that was great. It was a great experience.
You enjoyed it?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
What was it about that experience that you enjoyed? And do you think that maybe sparked the, like, this is going to be something? Like, what was it about doing that for the first time?
I think it was like problem solving for people was the best thing. I really like trying to assess the situation and try and help people find a solution for whatever they're trying to achieve in fishing. So whether it's tying knots or whether it's what's the best bait or best lure or the best rod and reel, I really enjoy actually providing that advice. That was the thing that sparked me working there for a couple of weeks.
And then so when you opened your store then, what were those early days like?
The hardest thing in the beginning was selecting the products to bring in the store, because whilst I was passionate and knowledgeable in, say, game fishing area and offshore fishing, I had a bit of lake fishing, but I didn't have like an expertise in brim fishing or fly fishing or the freshwater fishing. And opening up accounts with various suppliers brings all these different decisions to be made and learning those products early on. So that was a big challenge. Actually serving customers was easy because my whole thing about it is that I just answer the question honestly. If I don't know the answer, I say I don't know the answer. And if I know it, I go into depth on how to, depending on how much they want to go in depth, we'll try and explain my recommendations in the best way that I suggest they do things. And then if they choose to go a different way, well, that's okay. It's fine. That's how we all learn. And sometimes it's through them deciding to do something different that then they come and report back and we learn. We all learn from that. It's very easy to stay true to yourself if you just literally speak the truth when someone asks you advice on something. And my memory's not that good to say a lie and try and keep that lie. So I just say the truth, and that way I can remember what I said and stand by it. And if I've made a mistake along the way, and we'll try and rectify that mistake. Like, we learn from it. I remember the first time I used our spooling machine, I crushed one of the spools that we put on the machine. And that's because the spool that came to us wasn't a metal spool. It was a graphite spool. It was a cheap spool. And I didn't know that putting a certain amount of pressure over time, it wasn't a lot of pressure in the beginning, but as the line wraps around the spool, the pressure builds and it crushed the spool. And I had to buy a new reel for the customer.
He was probably happy about it. What a solution. Like, it just shows that, like, you say all these things and it's because you just want to help, right? It's because I think, and that's something that's synonymous, that from what I've heard and what I've experienced with you guys in the store and the team, is like everyone is genuinely good people and they do just want to help and do the right thing, right?
That's the only way I believe you can do it. There's no other way. And so if I fast forward a little bit and say that our little store that we had in French's Forest, like after 6 months of progress, the state government came in and said, we're going to take your property.
15 months to build, 6 months open.
Yeah.
Just getting into your groove. And then you get that notice.
That's what we got. Yeah. It was actually the first day I actually took off and and went fishing. And I came home and everyone was in tears. And I was like, what's that? I thought someone had died. But yeah, basically someone from the state government walked into the store and said, we're going to be acquiring this property. And it was just a massive shock to the system.
What was that conversation like at home that night after you found out?
Everyone just thought that everything that we'd worked for and was starting to get somewhere and feeling comfortable for a minute had just been taken away. And they were all scared. And it took 4 years of going through a process with the government, going through courts and all those type of things that you don't expect financially and mentally to have to go through. Like, it's hard enough in business.
Yeah,
Never mind to go through all of that.
And the government is making it more difficult for you.
Absolutely.
And this was because of the hospital development and roadways, right?
Yeah. So there was a decision to make a hospital. We actually knew that the hospital was coming there. We actually thought that was a massive advantage to us.
Yeah.
But what we didn't know, and local government and state government should have told us when we applied for our applications.
Yeah. It's obviously a plan. Yeah.
Yeah. It didn't happen in that last 6 months when they approved and when they,
You found that out over those 4 years of fighting. Was the store closed or open?
So it took about a year to go through a process where the government automatically own the site. They basically, they come up with a very small amount to offer you. And then if they pay 90% of that to you, they own the property.
That sounds evil. It doesn't really sound helpful.
It's far from helpful.
Yeah.
So we were trying to find a place, but the whole Northern Beaches was basically up, not knowing what's going on in the place. We didn't know if there was going to be a high rise in the place, but so nobody was selling their properties. There was nothing available. And literally all the agents that we were talking to couldn't find a property for us. And one day on a Sunday, I was extremely stressed. My parents were stressed out, my Dina, my wife, and we just said, let's just go for a drive. And we drove, a long way across the border to Mona Vale.
Right. Deep in the heart of the northern beaches. Yeah.
A place we'd never been before. But yeah, we went to Monavale and literally saw a place that said for sale. And we were like, why didn't any of the agents that we know on the northern beaches mention this property? And so we called them up and they said, oh, it's going for auction. We said, can we have a look at it? And yeah, we had a look at the place. We were desperate. And we were like, we can't afford this, but how can we make this happen? And the agent said, you got to go to the auction. We're not going to take any offers beforehand. And she went to the auction and there was only 3 people there. So it went for a lot cheaper than it probably should have. But we were buying this, still having to go through a court case to fund a new place. It was very difficult. So it was very emotional. I remember when we got the auction, when we won, like my wife was crying.
Yeah.
And it was quite emotional to get it. We also purchased it, not even knowing if we were allowed to do it. So it's still go through the DA process.
Because it has to be zoned correctly. And
yeah. And
wow.
Nothing's really zoned for a fishing tackle store because you could say it's retail in one way, but then it's also got fishing tackle rods. You can't fit that in a normal shopping center. It's got to have high ceilings, big access. And there's also the manual work that we do, all the rigging, the things that we build in store. So there's those type of elements that it doesn't fit into just a retail. So it's actually in the right place where it is.
You've been in a garage, you've been in a big warehouse now. What stayed true the whole time, no matter what the size and the location of the store?
The advantage that I thought I had that was being taken away in the small store, which was the location, the long lease, the cheaper rent that I'd negotiated, all of that had gone. But in that 6 months of trading, what I realized that the customer service was way more powerful was our advantage. And I didn't realize that. I just took that as a norm from the music industry, that sort of customer service one-on-one and helping each other out. I just thought that was normal, but it was obviously lacking in the fishing industry, which is why we gained a lot of momentum. At that point, I knew that was our advantage. It changed. So I thought we can bring that to the new store. It was a bit daunting with the size of the store. So we went from 100 square meter to a 585 square meter. And you think about how much stock and how much fit out it takes. But we were promised also by the lawyers that the government would be funding a lot of those expenses,
right?
Which didn't happen.
Empty promises. That's not a good empty promise to lead with, to bank on that. How did you make that work?
There was actually something else that happened.
Yeah.
In between the move from French's Forest to Monavale, with the court cases going on, we also got robbed. So
not great. Yeah.
Pretty bad too.
Really?
Yeah.
While you were like still in operation at the service station.
So when we left the service station, we had about 2 weeks of a gap where we had no security at Monavale.
Right.
So it was like we had to fit it out, etc. But there was no security, no cameras, no telephone lines, nothing. So what we did was we took all the stock and put it in my dad's garage, like home. After it was there about 3 or 4 nights, one day we walked in there and all the stock was gone.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Were you out fishing during that time as well? It seems like this is a thing where...
The truth is I was. So what happened?
There's lessons in here. I don't want to tell them to you because this is your business, but
dude, don't go fishing.
You need to go fishing still. But it seems
things go wrong.
Yeah.
So what actually happened was, so I went to fuel up the boat. It was Marcus Mackey's boat.
Yeah.
So a friend
Grady,
of ours.
yeah.
So we went to fuel the boat up and the weather was pretty good. So we ducked out and my brother-in-law had just come to meet the family. He'd flown in from the States. So I said, come along. We'll go fuel this boat out, see what his sea legs are like. We ducked outside the heads, caught a couple of dolphin fish, fueled the boat up and got basically ready to go fishing the next day. So there's actually a picture in our garage with a mahi-mahi with all the stock in the background.
Right.
And then we went to bed and between 10 o'clock at night and 4 in the morning, we were robbed.
Jeez.
So when I woke up, I went down into the garage. It just looked really neat in there, but I didn't realize what had happened. So I went to the local bakery, went to pay, and I had no money in my wallet because I had my wallet was actually in my ute. And the guy next to me goes, you look like you've been robbed. And I said, I think I have been robbed, right? Not knowing that we had over $100,000 worth of stock stolen.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So the whole time when I went fishing, I was like, there's something was not right. But when I came back, I was like, I asked my parents, did they move any of the stock?
Yeah.
or anything? And they said, no. And I said, there's something's gone wrong here.
Wow.
So it was over half of our stock was stolen.
Did the police look into it? Was it a planned thing? So some
planned
evil
attack,
out there.
So what happened was that they took all the fishing reels and all the fishing lures. Right. So it was all boxed and stock taked when we packed up. We went through that process of ticking and stock taking everything, boxing it up, writing on every box what it was. And it was just stolen. And so when we had to put a police report, it was very easy because we had done a stock take. So we had to restock take what we had left, and we gave that report. And some 3 months later, when we'd opened the new store, a fishing rod turned up that a friend of mine had brought in and said, is this rigged right for tuna? And I looked at it and I'm like, yeah, I rigged that. That's my rod and reel.
What? So and one of the ones that was stolen?
Yeah, one of the ones that was stolen. So I was like, one of my personal rods and reels.
Oh, wow.
And it was a one-of-a-kind custom-built rod.
Right.
So I said, where'd you get this from?
Yeah.
And he mentioned the name, and that ended up being our first ever customer.
Really?
Yep. And I got a picture with him as our first ever customer. So we don't know the full story, but they recovered like about 5 or 10 grand worth of the product back.
Okay.
The police.
So he was just sitting on it the whole, trying to sell it.
He sold a lot of it.
Yeah. Did insurance help you out with any of that? Because it was in the garage? And
so this was the issue. Basically, if it had been robbed at French's Forest or at Mona Vale, we would have been covered. But because it was at our private house, it was like a transit insurance, which was like 10 or 15 grand out of the 100 and something grand.
Jesus. Yeah.
So, yeah.
That would have been deflating.
It was like when we were already down, lost our property, lost the business, moving into a new place with very little money left and going through a court case, we got robbed severely. Every punch was being thrown at us.
Why do you keep going?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, seriously though, because I feel like in life, when you love something so much and you feel like it's the right thing and, you know, you get these bad luck things happening to you and you keep going, there's a reason for that.
Look, the thought of quitting or closing never actually really came into mind, to be honest. Like, I think that's largely because of the music industry.
You've already been beaten up.
Yeah, it beats you up. So I think that's where that came about. But I never really thought it was just like one step at a time. Like, what do I have to do next? And we just worked. And I've got a very supportive family. Like my mum, my dad, my wife, like we're very driven and supporting. So it was just like, no matter what, we just kept moving forward. And slowly we got approvals to open the store and started building it and like fit it out. And just, one customer at a time. And like there was no grand opening because there was literally no money to do any of that. We literally just opened the roller door.
Yeah.
And some people started to look in to see what was going on in there.
I think that ties in largely to where you're at today and the community you've built. It's a strong community. It's a strong brand that you've built. And I think both on the recreational and commercial side of the industry. What do you think is the special sauce that led to your success and community growth in Fishing Station?
I have a bit of a bookkeeping background and my wife's a chartered accountant. But I can tell you this, I've never said to one of my staff, sell one product over another product because of money. It's never, ever comes into our mind. That's not what it's about. It's about, we recommend a product based on the circumstances that we think's the best, the right fit for that customer. I honestly believe that's the main reason. Yeah, there's some skills that we may have and our staff have that are definitely beyond my skills. So all of those skills are fantastic, but it's using those skills in a way that just provides the right advice to the customer. We're not trying to sell something. I've honestly believed that if you provide the right advice, you're hopefully going to have a customer for life and you're going to grow with that customer and provide their needs along the way. And that's way more valuable
than a quick sale.
Yeah, absolutely.
And your experience, starting, that is a massive advantage.
Oh, thousands and thousands of hook sharpenings. Sharpening hook after hook after hook.
Hooks and knots.
Hooks and knots. That's personally probably doing a lot of that. I think I've ruined so many hooks. Not in the shop, but like prior to opening the shop.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's attention to detail. The amount of knots I've retied, respooling's done just because I wasn't happy with it. So it's the search for perfection, I guess, which never is the first time around. But over time, you get really fast at
and good times at bat, And I think too, like the guys in your store, although they might not have that same depth and length of experience that you have. They all share that not only passion for the industry, but the similar mindset of wanting to help people and do the right thing. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. I think you've got to inspire your staff to set a platform of the way you want to present your business. And they see the way I interact with the customer or my wife interacts, and we're trying to help. So they're naturally seeing that. And I'm a strong believer in looking after your staff. They'll look after your customers. You have to. I'll bring it back to the music industry. Some of the biggest artists that we performed with, if they were really good people, they had great sound people around them that wanted to help. And if the boss, the big artist, looked after the sound guy looked after the road crew, and the road crew would look after the support artist. So we would see a different side on the industry. And sometimes when we did our touring, one time we did a tour that did like 30-something schools in 1.5 months.
Yeah, wow.
And the culture of that school was so obvious to us. I learned a lot of that, to lead by example. If I want to look after customers, I have to look after staff and customers. And then our staff will be passionate about doing that, would know that, hey, that's the way we do it around here. We can't cut corners and we have to look after the customer's needs. That's the only way we've done it. And if I don't see that, I always have a chat to the staff and say, look, we've got to look after everyone. Don't cut corners.
It's a massive thing. It's the same thing for what I do in the content industry. It's like when you bring a crew together, you bring the vibe on set and how you treat the crew beforehand and afterwards and how you include them and all that stuff. It makes the biggest difference for the outcome of the shoot and the project in general, but also for their experience. And they want to do better for you, right? They want to go the extra mile. If we have to stay another hour, it's not like or they speak to the client a certain way. They speak with a way that you've asked them to, I guess, with respect, leading by example.
In this day and age, it's really hard. Like the amount of time they get asked to open more stores.
It's a good sign.
It's a good sign, but it's difficult.
Yeah.
Because you can't be everywhere all the time, and you're going to have to find the right people to support that.
That's a big thing, is finding the right people, but also retaining them and making it an environment where they can find happiness and joy in. What's been key for you to provide for your staff? I know from experience, I don't know if this is through you or not, but Jay goes on quite a few fishing trips to test out gear.
Our business trips.
Yes, yeah. But what is it that you do to make your staff love working with you?
I think the biggest thing is encouraging them to progress themselves, like from their fishing abilities or whatever area that they're passionate in. We have one guy that's been passionate about content creation, and so we've moved him down that role, and he's blossomed from doing that. Like he's really passionate about it. Like Jay loves his trips. So there's been plenty of opportunities where a trip has come up short notice and we just try and make it happen. And I think because of that, then the staff know that we're trying to help. We're trying to make things happen for them as well. And even though it's going to be difficult for us to short notice fill that gap, it's important for them to experience and grow. So when anyone does a fishing trip, their fishing knowledge is increasing massively.
Yeah. You're paying for education and for their happiness, right?
Absolutely.
What is it like when they get back? Because when they get to do these experiences, or you give them a promotion, or you say, I want you to do this because you want to do it, but also it's going to help you progress. Like, why do you do it, and why is that important to you?
Obviously, mentally it refreshes everyone from doing those trips, but they also always come back with a story on what worked, what didn't work. You can tell then any customers that are coming up that are doing a similar trip, quite often I'll go and refer them over to that staff member because they've just experienced it and they've got fresh-hand knowledge on it. It's invaluable, that.
Yeah. It sounds like the ultimate work perk, basically. Like maybe I'll stop doing this and come work with you and do some product testing. To that point, like the relationship that your staff build with the customers that you have, how has that played into the community building? Because it's not just you, right? You're the captain of the ship, but everyone has that interaction when you're not, I know you work a lot, but you're not there all the time.
I always use this phrase, Ronald McDonald didn't make every hamburger.
It's good.
What I mean by that is like, I physically can't serve every customer. I'd love to.
Yeah.
But I physically can't. So I have to trust my staff and I listen in, especially when they're starting out. I always try and listen in and try and provide any advice afterwards on how they could do things a little different or what they did great and try and progress that way.
Yeah. That's an important quality, I think, to be open to hearing that, which is probably something you would look for, I guess, in the hiring process and finding the right people. How do you find your staff? Is that more like through recommendations and referrals? Because, you know, the fishing community is big, but I don't know how that works for you.
I think because of the culture that we've built, it sort of attracts certain staff to the culture. I know that if I have a staff member that's not pulling their weight, it's actually the other staff members that really make me have to do something about it. Because if it doesn't fit in at a certain standard that we have, it just doesn't work. Yeah, if someone's not positive in the environment, it's really difficult.
Yeah. The bad apple.
Yeah, it's hard.
Bunch,
like we try and not let anything get to that stage, but if that ever happens, like it's a good thing, because I think if we had a poor work environment, it'd be the other way around. You'd have one person trying to do something good and everyone else keeping that person down. So we have it the other way around. I'm happy with that.
Yeah, that's a great way to be. Something to strive for, I think.
Yeah. If you're not passionate about what you do, I don't think you should do it. Like, it's pretty hard industry to do it without being passionate about it.
Yeah. The ups and downs, you have to be made of something special and enjoy it and find what you enjoy in the industry and what you're doing in it. You mentioned the desire for everyone requesting that you open more stores, which I think is awesome, like a telltale sign of we're doing the right thing. So you've started an e-commerce section. Why did you do that? And what's that been like for you as far as the running of the business and what your ultimate goal is?
It's a complicated thing online, but I try and get my online team, I should say, to create the similar environment to what we do in the store. We try and provide the right information. We try and respond to everybody less than 12 hours, sort of thing, like straight away. And we definitely get our packages out the same day or the next day, depending on the time of the day that we get that sale. And when there's a problem, we meet it head on and we try and solve that problem, because things happen. You know, occasionally we have a 2-step process on packing products from orders, and you'll still get two staff members to tick the right product has been, sent, and it goes to the wrong person, etc.
Right. Mistakes happen, but
mistakes happen.
Owning it's the important part.
Yeah,
making
you've got to
right.
own it and get straight onto it.
That would be challenging because you'd have less control of everything that's happening and more things at play, I guess, trying to do both online and in person.
The important thing I will say is that you've got to have a really good relationship with your suppliers to be able to solve a lot of the problems that you face both online and in store. So if you've got a good relationship with them, they're willing to help you out. The amount of times things happen that are out of our control, a rod snaps, it could be a customer just not using it correctly, could be a faulty product, whatever the reason is, but we've got to try and help that customer get out of a situation. They might have bought their dream fishing rod and already be on holidays and it snapped on the way there, and we've got to figure something out the best we can. Sometimes it's a wholesaler like sending it directly to them. Sometimes it's us providing an alternative solution. Not every problem we can solve immediately, but we try.
It's a great mindset to have.
Yeah.
Thinking back about your journey with Fishing Station so far, is there something unexpected that you've learned or experienced that has kind of changed your outlook or how you do business or how you live your life?
I think one of the big impacts we had was like during COVID. Like literally COVID changed perspective on work-life balance. So along this journey, we've had so many things that were totally unexpected, whether it's moving locations, whether it's the being robbed significantly. And then COVID was the next thing that came up, which was totally unexpected.
Well, that's your bad thing in 3. So, I think you're good now.
Good for a while.
Yeah.
And that's all in 10, 11 years. It's not a lot of time to have experienced all these things.
Yeah.
So it's just like COVID, one thing it taught us was that we need to strip it back a little bit, our time, so that we can still have a family balanced life. Like before we'd open so early and stay back so late that our kids were growing up and we weren't seeing them. So we changed our opening hours to 9 to 5. That doesn't mean we're there from 9 to 5, but it means that we can get there a little bit earlier and stay back a little bit later, but still see our kids, have dinner and be part of their lives. And our online side of the business makes it that people can shop anytime. The important for us to keep going and keep growing is making sure that we're all strong and healthy from a family point of view. So that was very important, and that's something we learned during COVID.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's the enjoyment of life, right? Whatever it is, whether it is fishing and being out on the water or spending time with your family or combining the both, like you don't have time for that if you're slaving away, even though you're trying to build the business. Like, yeah, it's a challenge to find the balance.
You have to get a balance because otherwise you get burnt out. And there was definitely times where I was getting burnt out, and that's no good. It's no good for your staff to see you like that. The beauty about our environment that we have is that we have such a positive team that everyone picks each other up.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Even I have like senior staff picking up the boss, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know, because I don't treat them like they're like my staff or anything like that. They're part of the business. Without them, this thing doesn't go forward.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I think a lot of times I'm working for all that stuff.
That's a good thing though.
Yeah.
That means that you can leave and, you know, go fishing and do what you need and be confident that everything's running smoothly.
Yeah. That was also a challenge, is being willing to let go a little bit.
Yeah.
And the importance of that is training staff to do it to the standard that you're happy with. And so that's like one thing that we do look for. We look for the talents that each staff member have and try and progress those talents. I think it's very important because there are skills in fishing that certain people will never be able to pick up. And there's skills that will come naturally to certain people. So, but all our staff have different skills. So we don't make every staff member learn how to rig a game lure, because if they're not passionate about that and they don't do that type of fishing, it's pretty hard.
It's part of fostering a really positive culture, right? Yeah. It's giving people the things that they want to do while still being able to serve your clients at the highest level possible, which is a really awesome and unfortunately probably rare.
Yeah.
It should not be as rare, but that's a very awesome thing. I'm curious, what habit or trait do you think has contributed most to your success?
I'd say just not settling for something that's not right. If I don't believe that that fishing lure is rigged to a certain standard, I'll just redo it. I'm not like, oh, that's okay, that'll do. Never been that'll do. We're all time poor, but there's a standard that needs to be kept. And I think that's a trait I've always just kept.
That's awesome. I would also probably echo the resilience, possibly, or determination, because that's rare. And yeah, I think both of those, you know, they probably go hand in hand, right? Trucking through the crap of those terrible, unfortunate things that happened, but accepting that the payout wasn't that's not enough from the government, or going back and finding, I guess, as much as you could with the gear that got stolen and stuff like that. Like it's special, I think.
It's all the things that I've gone through that makes you resilient, but it's always about just trying to push forward. You can progress, and one step at a time too. Like I've had plenty of people say, oh, I'd love to open a store. And I'm like, it's fantastic. Like, have you thought about certain things, these type of things? And I think it's like they see the end result and don't realize that it's a lot of baby steps to get there.
Yeah. It all looks good until you do it, right? Well, speaking of that, like, because your finger's on the pulse of the industry, how have you seen, since you started, the industry evolve, and what are the trends that you're seeing now in the tackle space and the fishing space?
The industry is definitely growing. Like the passion for fishing has grown so much since COVID. There's that many kids that are coming in all excited to go fishing now. It's even part of school.
Right.
Like imagine, I don't know, when I was young, I could only imagine.
I would love to have a fishing class.
For sport.
Yeah.
I've been so good. But that's part of a lot of the curriculums now.
Yeah, right.
So that's why we're getting, like, so many kids are coming in, which is so good to see. And we try and educate as much as we can with them. And it's something that I'm going to be moving forward with in the future with like courses and classes. And that's something that we'll be doing.
That's an amazing next step, I think would be really helpful for building the community.
Yeah.
The more you can teach people and share your knowledge, like now they don't have to be in the store every time to learn that kind of stuff.
That's another thing, I guess, with our store. We've always tried to build a great fishing community, a support network to the community. Like when there's any challenges as far as like getting areas blocked for fishing, like stop the lockout circumstances that come up every now and then, the first thing that customers do is they come to us as a means to help. Like we've got that responsibility in the community to be part of it and support the community when times are tough.
I think that's part of being a leader in the community, is looking out for, you know, your customers like you do in the store, but also those bigger initiatives, like look at just in the States, what Viking has just done with the speed restrictions they have over there, that's just got knocked down because they were largely seen as, the leader in the industry. They went to bat for not only their brand, but the industry in general. And you're doing a similar thing here, which it's awesome. I love that. People respect you so much more, I think, when it's not just about the sale.
I'm very passionate about all the education stuff that we're going to be doing soon and being part of the community. I think it's very important. Like, it's just more natural to be a part of it. Even though it's sometimes hard to go and speak in front of people and do all those things, I think the purpose is way more important. And so you've got to be there.
You do a lot of speaking and giving back at talks and stuff like that, which I love. What's the biggest mistake that you see people make when they first get into fishing?
I'd say the biggest mistake is people trying to overcomplicate what they're doing. Like, the best fishermen out there have got very simple systems in place in every form. They think more about like, what's the behavior of that fish, the current conditions, where the fish would likely be, what they're likely to be feeding on. And that's very important, more so than having so many options of tackle. I think it's important to think about like the fish.
What are some of the common questions that new fisherman comes in and asks you? What do you hear all the time?
We get asked like, what's the best bait? Or the most common one is, what's the best color of lure? And color of lure plays a part a little bit, but the actual lure is more important than the color. The color's better for getting us all to buy them.
Yeah.
Exciting all of us.
A new color, three more shades of green.
Yeah, absolutely. But like, it's quite funny. Like, for example, you get like, say, a stick bait and everyone asks, what's the best color? But if you look underneath the stick bait, most of them are the same color.
Right.
But on the top, they're different.
Yeah.
And it's stick baits on the surface.
Yeah,
the fish don't look at the top. They look underneath.
Oh, right.
So, yeah, very common one for us.
How about seasoned fishermen and anglers? Like, what's a common question that you always get or request from them?
Seasoned fishermen are always asking us very, like, the little things, like what hook size we're using, what knots we're using, what leader we're using, how we're connecting certain lines together. They've generally got an understanding. They've say they're in game fishing, they've caught some marlin, but they want to catch more. Everyone catches more.
Always more.
Yeah.
What questions do you get that kind of like raise the eyebrow when people come into the store?
We don't get questions that like raise our eyebrows too much. It's more when customers, I guess, ask us a question, but they've already thought they know the answer and it's not what we're saying, and they're still standing by that answer. It's okay to have different opinions. It's not an issue at all. But I think if they've got very little experience and then they're questioning quite a few staff members that have got a lot more experience that are trying to help, they're not saying, do it this way, saying this is how we've found success doing it this way. And feel free to try that way or modify it or do your own thing. It's not an issue. But some of the responses that you get, it's like, I don't know if that's going to work.
It's either ego or YouTube.
Yeah, that people see things online. This is another thing, is that some people are very good at presenting online, but not necessarily are backed with the experience. And some people are very experienced and don't know how to present. And that's the challenge that individuals have. But the people listening, if they've got less experience than the person they're listening to, they generally think that person knows everything.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not quite the case.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate thing of like how content is made now, and the personalities that are out there. Some of them are great for entertainment value, but I think it helps to work with someone like us who can find the people that really know everything and then help them present it in a way that people really enjoy watching. Because that's a big thing. Like, you hate to see these people that know nothing or made it or just regurgitating other people's information, but they don't really have the like history and the experience under the belt to say those things, which, that happens with every industry and everything. But I think it's an important thing to have one place that you really get your information that you trust. So whether that's fishing station and going down to the store and doing that, or you follow one person in particular, it's can get confusing. Like you said, keep it simple.
I think it's also when you have a culture that's sort of very positive and learning from each other, because you're attracting very experienced customers, you're also learning a lot from all of them too. So it's an opportunity that I've been able to have by doing what we do is to fish with some of the best fishermen in the country. And that only means you learn more. And if you're the type of person that wants to learn and keep progressing, I'll say this, there was one of the best deckhands in this country, a Cairns deckhand. He's an older guy. He came to one of our talks on how to rig marlin lures, and he sat in the front row. And you can imagine, like...
Were you sweating?
I was like, he's got so much knowledge.
Yeah.
He's got 50 years of experience in marlin fishing, and at the top level.
He's seen the whole industry
he's
evolve.
Seen everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How they're doing things.
And he still wants to learn. So he came up to me afterwards and he goes, "Oh, that was really interesting how you did that. And I really like the way you rigged that lure." I said, "There's one thing I've got to ask you. I'm about to take on some heavy tackle tournaments. And how do you leader on big fish with heavy line? Because I'd only had experience with lighter leaders and whatnot." And he showed me his technique. And that technique, I went home and I tied a bit of line to a desk and one to a fishing rod. And I practiced it and I practiced it. And the first time I went out fishing again and we caught a marlin, I practiced that technique. I was slow doing it the first time. And through lots and lots of practice, now it's second nature, right? But I had been marlin fishing for a good 15 years without that technique. And that technique was so important. It's so simple. And I always now, when someone comes in, I'm like, when they want to learn how to catch marlin, very early on, I'm trying to teach them that technique on leadering because it's so dangerous.
Yeah.
It's like one thing, it's all good and well to sell the right fishing rod, sharpen the hooks, set the drags right. Once you hook a fish, things change.
Yeah, instantly.
There's a problem now.
Yeah.
We've got a big fish on the end of the line. It's angry.
Yeah.
And when you get them close to the boat, it's dangerous.
Yeah. Oh, we just saw that with with the video Black P put up.
I know.
That was wild. Yeah.
That happens. So, and if you're inexperienced as a driver, as an angler, or as the leader person, things can go wrong really quick. So I'm lucky now. I'm fishing with some very experienced people, and we do things that are pushing the limits all the time, and it's risky. But that's tournament scenario.
Yeah.
You're trying to get lots of fish very quickly.
Yeah.
But you can't do that without going slowly through that process on the driver itself, the angler, and the person leadering. To go hard at a fish, you've got to have all those three key elements all working together. So I guess like that's the other positive of working in our store for all the staff members. They get to meet some of the best fishermen out there and then get to fish with them and learn from them and pass that knowledge to the other staff members, to other customers. And I think that's one thing I've seen change over the last 20 years. When I started game fishing, the knowledge was all hidden.
Right.
And the only way you would get that knowledge is if you were part of a game fishing club, which personally I didn't even know existed.
It's such a sharing culture. Everybody does want to share.
We do.
Yeah.
We share, and like YouTube, all the social media, like the knowledge for everyone, it's all out there. It can be a bit confusing because there's so much knowledge out there. But if you look at a variety of ways of doing any aspect of fishing, somewhere in the middle will be the right way to do it.
Just choose the right person you're learning from.
Yeah.
The wonderful thing about that is, you need more at-bats to practice the things you learn.
Yeah.
And it's a fantastic thing to be able to say, well, I'm just practicing, I'm going out fishing, and you want to go do it more to get better at it, right? So every time you're out, you're being out, getting better at leadering or driving or being the angler, like how you
every aspect. Rigging a bait is just, there's a whole bunch of different ways to do that.
I watch the guys on deploy do that, and man, like well-oiled machine, they do it so fast and just in sync with each other and stuff. But you look at the intricacies. I will eventually put a video out of film Riley talking me through how he puts a swim bait together with the sinkers and how precise you have to be with the needle and the holes and the way he does it, and then making sure it swims correctly and how that, like, there's so much to it that, like, it can be intimidating, but he's not really old, but he's been doing it so much and practicing, and they're great at it. Like, it's amazing. Yeah, it makes a big difference in the fish you catch, right?
Absolutely. That's a lot of work goes involved in stitching the baits up in Queensland.
Yeah, that's wild. So you've recently purchased a new boat, a Grady Fisherman 216.
216.
Yeah. You had your eye on it for a while. You've had boats in your past. You even told me that you built your house specifying that it would fit in the driveway. So it would just be the maximum size you could put in your driveway. which I think is dedication to the craft for sure.
Yeah.
What drew you to that boat, or Grady in particular, and why did you finally get it?
My wife really wanted to get a boat for a long time. And so did I, obviously. But I didn't want to settle, and I really wanted something safe for everyone that I could rely on, because we are going out in the ocean, and I've been in seas which have challenged us. So I wanted something very reliable, and I'd known Ryan and Sam for a while, and we're good friends. And the Grady White boats are just, they're beautiful boats. They're so smooth to ride as well. So like I have a bit of a dodgy back.
Mm-hmm.
And
Sorry for making you sit this long.
Yeah. It's all good. I didn't have a boat for a long time, actually. The previous boat I had was an aluminium boat, and it just broke my back.
Smashed, yeah.
Yeah.
In the seas we get here, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There was times I remember once I had to literally lie on the floor and get someone else to drive the boat back for a while because it was just so bad. But the Gradys are so smooth. And so the first Grady I wanted was the 228. But by the time I was ready to purchase the boat, they stopped manufacturing them. And the boat that I actually thought I wouldn't buy was a center console.
Why was that?
I think purely because I was worried about like pretty much getting wet from the rain and all the bad seas and rain and all that.
Yeah.
And my close friends were like, "You're not going to buy a center console. You're going to hate that." But we just made a decision. We went ahead with it, and with the side clears on it, it's incredible. We don't get wet. We don't get cold. And now when we were fighting a fish, we've got all that space at the front. So when we get like double hook up on a marlin, it's so easy. You can just walk around the boat. It's fantastic. And there's another side of it is my daughters, they sit up the front. They never come to the back of the boat. And so I don't think I could even contemplate changing to a different style of boat. I think the center consoles, I've been really enjoying it. So I don't think I'd change that.
They're beautifully running boats, and they look the part. I've been out fishing on your Grady once with you, and yeah, you just, even though it's a smaller boat at 21 foot, and we get the big seas here, right?
Yeah.
You never felt unsafe or not like it couldn't handle it. Like that's, I guess, the one thing, being unsinkable and all that stuff. But now that you have it, you've been using it. What's your favorite part on your boat?
The trailering experience really easy as well. Like driving on and off, really easy. I find the access, like even pulling up at the ramp, is so easy because you're sitting in the middle on a center console, you can just grab the side. It's just, everything's easy on it. I think that's the accessibility, is that I've got my live bait right underneath me. It's where I sit. No boat is 100% perfect. I thought you'd be building it from scratch yourself. But it's definitely very easy to get around that boat. Like if I was to change the boat right now, I'd probably be just doing the same thing, getting the same boat, because I can't go any bigger at my place. It's my turning ability. I just can't go any bigger. It's a matter of centimeters.
You'd be a master on the backing that trailer.
Yeah, well, originally I went and bought an electric jockey wheel because I couldn't do it. Most people couldn't do it. So they tried. But over time, I've gotten a lot better at it.
Yeah, just like knots and hooks.
Yeah, it's just time, just practice. So I've got that down pat now. And so I'm used to it. At that size, I can do all the game fishing I want to, but I can also go in the river. I can do all the intricate stuff in the harbour.
Not a lot of draft, so you can pull right up. And owning a tackle shop, you have access to all the accessories you could possibly imagine. What's the favorite add-on that you've put on the boat? There's
a good safety feature that we put on, which was the Synix. So it's like night vision. That's been particularly good during winter when we're going out for tuna in the dark, and helps you find the kayakers.
This is true. Those kayakers in the harbor.
Like through the spit, it's hard to see them.
Yeah.
So I put the Synix on, and we have people looking out, and whales, obviously.
Yeah.
So the Synix has been very handy. We're running some Simrads, 12-inch screens there. They've been very easy to use. I got Short Marine to put a fairing block in.
Yep.
Which is like cutting a big hole in the bottom for the sounders. That was actually worth it. Totally.
Yeah, right. Makes a big difference. Yeah.
Yeah, the clarity that I'm reading is fantastic. So I know it was a big job for them, and totally worth it. So the next time I get another Grady,
that's good. Maybe they'll do it in the factory for you. Yeah. Just ask them to do that. What is it about Sydney that makes this such a special place to fish?
Sydney has like every type of fishing you could imagine coming in. And I think like the harbour is so much life going on in there. And we have different seasons. So sometimes we have an abundance of kingfish and sometimes we don't. Sometimes we have the mahi-mahi come, or there's times where it's salmon and tailor in the harbour. But yeah, we have everything from brim and flathead whiting to all the way up to the marlin species. And then we get like bluefin and yellowfin come in as well. So we've got a very diverse fishery.
And it's all close.
It's all close by. Yeah, there's a lot of fishermen, but the ocean's big. So we've got a lot of space for all of us.
Getting bait in the morning gets crowded, but I mean, compared to other places, I don't think you're never too crowded out there, like in the 3 or 4 spots that you can go for the shelf, like just right out of the heads. So
from a game fish point of view, I think numbers is actually important, from knowing where the fish are to also from a safety point of view.
So you've done a lot of fishing over your career. Starting at 3, you've definitely been to a few places, been on a few different boats. What's exciting to you about fishing on a new boat or in a new place or even at a new mark you haven't been to yet?
I've always tried to improve on the little things. So every time you do something that's a little bit different, a new spot, new location, it's a new challenge. And it's another way of doing, sometimes it's doing the same thing, just slightly differently that excites you, or using different tackle, trying things out, different methods. If you're looking at little things, there's always some way to improve. And I'm going out fishing with some very like-minded people. So there's always someone else there challenging and seeing little things to improve.
And making the banter pretty good on the on the deck.
You've got to have fun.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people take tournament fishing very seriously. I'm there for the fun. I'm there with the people I want to fish with. It just so happens to be with some of the best fishermen.
You just happen to pick your boat quite well.
Yeah, but it was never about that. And it's again, like even with opening the shop, it was never about making money out of it. We have to make money to support our families, but it's all about progressing and doing something you're passionate about and having fun doing it. Yeah, that's what we do on Team Zorro.
I love that. You and Benici are just smashing it. What's your favorite boat to fish out of and why? You could go with the safe bet here and say your own, but I don't know.
Oh, that's a hard one because on my boat, I get to try the things that I want to try, the way I want to do things. And on, like, say, fishing with Mike, we're all good mates. So we get to try things together. Mike's a great fisherman, so you can trust his opinion on everything. Yeah. Just trust him and you'll catch fish. Yeah. It's just different. So like I fish with Team Zorro with Mike, Haley and Jeremy in the tournaments. And that's just, we all love fishing together. We're just good friends. That's why we keep doing it, because tournament fishing is not easy. The bad weather, the tough tournaments, like why do you just keep doing it every time? Like you could easily just say, well, we'll just go fishing when the fishing's great. When the weather's good and the fishing's hot, that's when we go fishing. But we do the tournaments because it brings us together. You know, we're a good fun team. Yeah.
More at bats.
Yeah.
And maybe a few prizes in the mix. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I've got some rapid fire questions for you.
Yeah.
That'll be funny. So first thing that comes to mind, what's your favorite fish to catch and why?
It has to be a marlin.
Mm-hmm. Why?
I think the anticipation of seeing that fish and when it's about to eat, that part of it is the most exciting moment. Is it going to eat? Are we going to hook it? That moment. Certain fish challenge you more than others, and those ones are
they're playing hard to get.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your favorite boat snack?
Probably hummus with carrots.
Ooh, healthy. Yeah. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No meat pies for you.
No, not at the moment. Don't need them at the moment.
No. What's your favorite item in the store that you sell?
Leadering gloves.
Yeah, right. Okay. The Black Pete ones?
They're strong. They'll do the job.
Yeah, yeah. What's a business item in the store that you couldn't live without?
Oh, the line spooling machine.
Mm. What's your favorite fish to eat and how do you prepare it? I know you don't like tuna. Is that right?
I don't really like eating fish.
That's right. That's right.
In summary, I've been maybe known to have the ute with some fresh bluefin in the back, drive through McDonald's and order a fillet of fish burger and never eat the bluefin.
I'm not even going to ask why. I feel like that's a deep rabbit hole we're going to go down. That's amazing. The fillet of fish. Yeah. Forget it. Well, you make other people happy. We'll just say that you save it for the others.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What's a dream fishing destination that you haven't been yet?
I haven't been to Vanuatu.
So Jay was recently there.
Yeah.
Recon mission?
The issue I've got is I hate flying.
Oh, no.
But the one fish that I would love to travel for is dogtooth tuna.
Yeah.
So I've experienced them, but I'd love to do more.
Yeah. I was going to say amazing to eat and sushi wise, but they probably have a McDonald's somewhere in Vanuatu for you.
Hopefully. They just fight so hard, and the chances of pulling one out with all the sharks around them is just...
Yeah, that'd be awesome. If you weren't running Fishing Station, what would you be doing?
I mean, I'm passionate about the music industry, and it's pretty hard to stop someone doing something that they're not passionate about. So probably trying to make music support the family somehow.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Glutton for punishment.
Yeah.
Back to it. Yeah. I love it though. But you have a studio at your house, right?
Yeah, I have a music studio at my house, which is, I use most days. So where fishing used to be my hobby, still when I go fishing, I'm still like, that's my happy place. Music is also that way of me just shutting the rest of the world out for a minute.
Yep. Yep. Soundproof room, close the door.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good, yeah.
What's your go-to fishing story that you love to tell people?
Last year's shootout was a very special fish for our whole team. We ended up landing 194 kilo blue marlin on 15 kilo line class. So Haley was the angler. Obviously had Mike is driving and Jeremy on the tag, ended up being on the gaff. So we're a tag and release team. We fish light tackle, trying to catch lots of marlin as opposed to the biggest marlin. And just by chance, this nice, like on 15 kilo, that's a big blue marlin. And we also only had a 100-pound leader, and we're not really set up for capturing fish. So this fish challenged Mike from a driving point of view. It challenged Haley from an angling point of view. She had like a 3.5-hour fight on 15, and Mike was driving crazy to keep close to this fish because that fish of that size can break the line even without much line pressure on it, like just through its speed through the water. And so that was a long fight, and it's all coming down to this last little moment, which took about an hour and a half. So the fish was like a few meters from us for about an hour and a half. And we're just trying to get, the fish wouldn't come up, and we don't have enough pressure to apply to bring it up. And we'd initially made the decision not to leader the fish because it's only a 100-pound leader. It's 3.5-hour fight. I could touch the leader and it's going to pop.
Yeah.
But as it turned out, we had to make some really hard decisions, and we knew there was a high chance we were going to lose this fish. Even from early on, we're like, there's a chance we're not going to, but we're just going to go for it. So faced with a situation where we had to sort of leader it in the end, it's pretty nerve-wracking for myself because I'm the one on the leader.
Yeah. You've been practicing for this day though, on the desk. But
like, it was like little pinching.
Yeah.
Like the tiniest bit of extra pressure, but the fish responded and it was coming up. Yeah. And Jeremy had to gaff. It's not easy, like on a fish of that size when it's still got a lot of life in it. And that fish challenged every single person on the boat. And we still didn't know quite the size of it because we don't really kill fish very often. We don't kill marlin very often. We don't weigh them too often. We caught the fish, we measured it, and we're thinking it's close. And as we're driving in, somebody radioed in that they'd caught one at 176 kilos, around that amount. And we're now starting to second guess ourselves.
Yeah.
But it ended up happening that it went 194, but it was special because of the line class and the leader. Everything about it made it a special fish. So we were lucky and we won.
Amazing.
We won heaviest marlin, which we're definitely not trying to catch that fish.
Yeah,
there's boats out there chasing that fish for 2 days solid with heavy tackle, with all the right gear to do it. It was a lot of luck and testing everyone's skills to the absolute max.
Yeah. Yep. What's something you took away from that whole experience?
Well, there's so many unexpected things that happen in fishing, and sometimes you're faced with a challenge and you just got to keep being patient and go for it. And there was a lot of people cheering us on because they all knew that the circumstances was so special. So it was a great achievement for everyone. And I mean, those things you can't really plan those scenarios, but that's what made that win actually so important. I mean, even if we didn't win the 50 grand or the prize, that catching that fish was a special fish.
Definitely would have been a few smiles holding the big check. That's awesome. And then I think probably, just that support of the community. Everyone's stoked for you that you win it. I've been to a few tournaments and, giving out the prizes and announcing everything. It's just a really cool experience to be a part of.
Yeah, I think the guys that do the tournaments every year, they know who goes each year, tries their best and really works hard for it. So everyone's supportive of someone that's, passionate and works hard and gets those achievements, which I think early on it was hard, like, because you got to get accepted into the game fishing community.
Mm-hmm. And then you kind of knew, you're new to it. So, you know, you don't have your kind of crew and the support network,
like,
even though you're part of it.
It's like, how do they do that? How do they catch that many fish? Like, did they actually catch that many fish? That's where cameras come into play.
Exactly. But when you're on Team Zorro and you do it every tournament, it's
well, it's a time bar, right? Like, because even Mike fishing tournaments, there's only, I don't know, maybe I'm guessing probably 6-7 years now. It's not that long compared to some boats that have been over 20 years in it. But the people that knew him before fishing tournaments would know that he's one hell of a fisherman.
He's a machine. Yeah.
He's a machine.
It's the little things, right? Like you said.
Yeah. There's so many people go, oh, you're not telling us something, or there's something. I'm like, no. Like, I fish on the boat with him, but it's his mind and his processing of reacting to the situation. It's the little things that he's done. Just even last week, we got a blue marlin and we caught it live baiting off Sydney and there was no bait. So most people go, why are you live baiting off Sydney? Yeah. Well, we'd marked a couple of fish in the area. There was no bait, but we saw another boat hook one, and why not? Try something different. Like, we weren't raising them doing other techniques. So we tried live baiting, and then the next fish that we marked, we caught.
One to him, yeah.
So, and it was a blue marlin.
Yeah.
Inside the shelf, where most people don't go chasing them. But we've found just as many blue marlin in 80 fathoms as we have further out.
Right.
So,
yeah. Well, I guess it largely depends on how you're making those decisions and what you're looking at, the charts, the intel. Yeah. Like, I've called you multiple times, like just recently. Unfortunately, it didn't work out what I had to shoot. I said, I need to go catch a kingfish or a mahi. Yeah. But, it's leaning on that, I think, the network and also what you have access to.
We get a lot of intel from other customers that are catching fish.
If you could only share one lesson that you've learned from fishing, what would it be?
You've got to be patient in fishing. Like, it's being passionate and being willing to try things and learn. It is the little things. It's not one secret.
How has that changed the way that you live and see your life outside of when you're fishing?
I live my life exactly the same way as I do at the shop. I'm just as passionate in everything I do at home, and I try and break down the challenge into little things to try and get over that hurdle. It's not like, yes, you can get bogged down in something and then become the too hard basket, but when you actually break things down into small things, you can achieve those small things. And so I've always done that, from whether it's the little things at home, and also once I've done something in the shop, say we've got our line spooling machines working, it opens my mind to take on the next thing. And what I've always done is I've taken on the next thing, but not promoted the next thing until the next thing is at a certain level.
You feel confident.
Yeah, because it's like, it's very easy to get, like, say your social media guy, he starts building some stuff up, but are we ready to start putting it out
the
there?
Systems in place.
Yeah, you have to have your systems in place. You can't be 100% because there's no such thing, because I can guarantee you'll find better ways of doing something, but you got to get it to a certain point to actually try that thing.
Yeah.
I use this as a really simple example of something that I learned. So I had a guy that had never fished before, and I went out and fishing with him. We hired a little boat because I didn't have a boat. He didn't have a boat. This is going back quite a while. He went and bought himself a tinny. He got so excited. So then he said, come out on the tinny. So I showed him how to catch yellowtail, and I used a little piece of fillet of fish, not the burger, but a little fillet of fish.
Leftover McDonald's.
And showed him how I went from the flesh side through the skin and just on the edge with a little long shank hook. And what that allowed us to do is, you catch a bait, you pull the yellowtail in and you grab the shank and you flick the live bait in the tank, and you've probably got a little bit of skin left on that bait, on that hook. And so you can use it and catch another one. And so if you're using that tough bit of skin, you could catch a couple of fish in a row, and it's fast. Like, sometimes they're just biting for a short period of time, so you could catch more fish. And you fast forward 6 months, and I go fishing with him, and he's got a little bit of a towel, white towel, and he's cut that into the same size strip as that strip of bait. And he would dip that in a bit of tuna oil and pilchard. and he would throw that out. And now the way that I showed him, you might catch 2 or 3 fish with the one bait. Now that bit of towel lasts almost the whole session, and you can catch 20 fish on that one piece of towel.
It's amazing.
It is, if you're sharing knowledge, the people you're sharing it with progress that in the way that they go, the road that they take, and then you can learn better ways of doing things. And I think it's very important.
It would be one of the wonderful things about sharing and teaching people what you know, is seeing that knowledge turn into something that you never thought.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Very special.
It is. That's the knowledge building blocks that you have.
I love that. Well, it only happens because you're a good dude. So thank you for being on the podcast. I love this conversation. I know everyone else will. Always enjoy our time together. You definitely are like a gift to the fishing community. So we all appreciate you. And if you're in the market for some gear or expert advice or spooling, because Alex has got that down now, no more crushed graphites. Check out Fishing Station in Mona Vale. Definitely won't be disappointed. You guys, I'm sure, would love to help everybody. So thanks for being on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for listening today or watching on YouTube. And share this episode with someone who loves fishing. And we'll catch you next time on the Rising Tidecast.